A loss today for Pauline Hansen in her bid to overturn that landmark ruling that she'd racially vilified Green Senator Mehreen Faruqi when she told her political rival, excuse my language here, to piss off back to Pakistan. So what does this mean for the One Nation leader? Well, here to discuss this and more, former Liberal MP Nicole Flint and her Chief of Staff, One Nation Chief of Staff James Ashby. Well, James, we're not going to get into the legal detail of issue right or issue wrong in the court of public opinion, but certainly in the eyes of the court and the Racial Discrimination Act, she lost her appeal in the federal court. All you've got left now is the High Court. Are you going to take it further?
Well, Peter, I received a phone call today from a former federal court judge who said the outcome of today's decision, it was intellectually dishonest and lazy. And so I struggle to disagree. We're not happy with the decision. We have to respect it. As it stands, there were 3 judges that made this decision. They were all unanimous in the way in which they handed this decision down. But it goes without saying there is grounds there for an appeal, or sorry, not an appeal, but to take this now to the High Court. Whether they will accept that, well, we'll find out in 6 months' time. But we've got a limited amount of time to do it. And again, it just costs so much money. This is lawfare at its worst. An increasing number of people just want to use our laws against us to shut us up under 18C.
And I will remind people too, Tony Abbott took it to the election, Nicole Flint, you'll remember this, in 2013, that the coalition would fix 18C, that they would repair what we all know are issues with the Racial Discrimination Act. And that was what he was elected to do. And then when the legislation went to his party room, all the wets like Craig Lawney and others who'd just been elected on that promise refused to back the legislation. But this has got to be back on the table, surely, for the coalition.
Well, I hope so, Peter. And there is a fine line here. Obviously, I've been very outspoken over the years about the vile abuse that women in public life are subjected to. I'm one of those women that's had to put up with it. But the matter that has just been before the court is on such a low end of offence. I am astounded that this decision was upheld. Now, that's a matter for the courts, obviously, and I hope that One Nation do keep pursuing it. Although I hear, James, what an horrific waste of money to have to throw towards a court case. So, yes, we do need to see reform. However, we also need to do things like protect women, but protect our Jewish community. And what infuriates me more than anything is that were it our Jewish community, or were it a woman like me or any other conservative woman like you, Peter, there is no way that we would see this sort of decision from judges. Every single time I've ever challenged anything, it has been dismissed instantly because we are on the wrong side of politics.
But I also think it's important for people to understand it's just one thing. You need to be offended or insulted to end up in the same case as Pauline Hansen. And we're staring down the barrel now at in excess of 1.6, maybe close to $2 million worth of costs already. That's how easy it is. Insult
I will make the point,
somebody.
though, we're all on the right side. We're all on the right side of the ordinary common sense Australian person who looks at this and shakes their head. I know your boss is fronting Paul Murray tomorrow night, 9 o'clock. Don't miss that, everyone at home. But it was almost like she was in the room at the Labor conference on the weekend, James. I mean, they're completely spooked by her. They even wheeled out their campaign boss, Paul Erickson. He never does media, but he was out there with my colleague Andrew Clennell. Have a listen.
As the polls show, the coalition will not be able to govern without One Nation. One Nation would not be able to govern without the coalition. So at the next election, the choice will be between a Labor government that's delivering real change or an alternative of a chaotic and divided coalition One Nation government.
Now, he does sound robotic, as someone just said in my ear. I agree with that, but he is smart, he is shrewd, he's a good strategist, but you've got him on the ropes there, James.
Well, that's not what his Labor colleagues have said. You know, he's worked for previous ministers there in Canberra and they've said he's very lazy. He's run 2 campaigns in the past, one against Scott Morrison, one against Peter Dutton. Now, he's been fortunate enough to win those, but they weren't his strategies, by the way. He likes to use a lot of these third-party organisations to bring him results and bring him slogans. So, you know, we can all do that. But is he that shrewd? Is he that smart? I think he's desperate. And the mere fact that he did that interview over the weekend with your colleague shows to me we've fleshed him out a little bit. We know what his lines are going to be. As robotic as they were, we now know what they are. So we can actually use that to our advantage moving forward. So let's see how good he goes at this next election. I don't think there'll be the appetite for Australians to vote for this Labor lying government. It's lie after lie. I could keep that Fire the Liar campaign going for the next 12 months and probably raise another 15 mil at the rate this government's going. They haven't learnt the lesson. Stop lying to the Australian people. Instead, they just keep the habit up. Paul Erickson, you've got a tough job ahead of you. And I tell you what, you haven't faced One Nation. You're like mongrels towards the coalition. You haven't seen how we fight in the trenches when it comes to this next campaign.
Nick, you and I have got a long history trying to stop the coalition doing something as stupid as putting in quotas for female politicians, right? And we get the lectures from the left, that quotas being you're serious about women. Well, Joan Kerner was installed, Carmen Lawrence was installed, Julia Gillard was installed, of course Jacinta Allen, she was installed. They look like they might roll her tomorrow. What's the point of having a quota if you roll your women anyway?
Well, I think the point of Labor having the quotas is that they're not necessarily appointing the best person for the job, and that installing women, as is often the case, into leadership positions without them having won that position through their own work ethic and also platform is doomed for failure. And that's what we're about to see again. And I can't wait. And go Jess Wilson. Brilliant interview from her tonight, Peter.
Now here is a bitter irony worth savouring. Tony Abbott promised to reform Section 18C in 2013. He won government on that promise. Then the Liberal wets, Craig Lowndes and his ilk, gutted the reform behind closed doors, and it never happened. If the coalition had kept its word, Pauline Hansen would not be staring down a $2 million legal bill today. The very party that now needs One Nation's preferences to govern is the party that left Section 18C intact as a weapon for activists to wield. And they wonder why voters are walking away. The political calculation here is not subtle. Labor is spooked, genuinely spooked. You do not send your campaign boss onto hostile airwaves unless the internal polling is telling you something terrifying. Paul Erickson's recent media appearance was wooden, evasive and thoroughly unconvincing, and it signals that Labor sees One Nation not as a fringe movement, but as an existential threat to its electoral map. They are right to panic. Every time the establishment tries to silence Hanson with a courtroom, her support hardens and her base expands. Australians do not like watching a politician get dragged through the courts for saying what half the country was already thinking. The potential High Court appeal now looms as the final reckoning. If the High Court takes the case, it becomes a national referendum on whether Section 18C can survive in a democracy that still pretends to value free expression. If it refuses, the precedent is locked in. Offend someone powerful enough, and your speech is no longer a disagreement, it is a liability. Thank you for watching Oz Politics Report.